we just got a massive Quest 3 update that will completely change our VR experience, as well as some crazy details about the next VR headset from Meta. And we also have some big VR game news that you don't want to miss. So let's dive right into it. Now Meta has finally released one of their biggest updates ever, because in this one, we got a complete overhaul of your original home environments. And this new version is also referred to by Meta as the immersive home experience, or for short, the loft. And while the Quest 3 legacy environments existed out of multiple different versions that you could choose from your menu, this loft is now instead just a single core with 4 different background sceneries that you can choose from. But by far the coolest thing is that it comes with a bunch of features that just weren't possible before. For example, in the old school homes, you could only teleport yourself in short distances, and you weren't even capable of going around the corners in most of these spaces. But now, with this new upgraded version, not only can you explore the entire thing, you can also walk around in it freely without any limitations. And some other cool new things that you can do in here is that you can interact with the furniture around you so that you can finally get down in a seated position in one of those comfy looking chairs. And honestly, I can't believe that it took this long for us to finally get some free locomotion within our own spaces. And furthermore, they also added in a new settings tab known as World Movement, where you can change the way that you walk around to your own style. So no matter how big your real life space is, you should still be able to use this with all of its functions included. And another cool thing that this comes with is that you will now finally be able to pin 2D windows in your virtual space wherever you want. For example, you could pin a screen that is watching anime to a wall in your home and then still jump into another experience like Beat Saber while it stays stuck to that wall even when you return. So next time you come back, you can dive right back into that episode where you left off. And it is these kind of small improvements that really have a big impact in how you experience virtual reality. Oh yeah, and Meta has also unlocked a new Instagram window, which lets you display images and videos that you want. But that's not all, because now you can finally change between the new navigator system as well as the old school UI. And if you somehow have missed this, Meta implemented their overhauled navigator user interface, which made your menu system look very different and similar to that of the Apple Vision Pro. However, a lot of users were not happy with these big changes at all. So luckily, after Mark Zuckerberg heard all of these complaints, they decided to make it possible for you to choose between which interface that you are using, with the original one now also being the new standard. So if you want to change it back to it, or if you want to try out the newer version, then you should be able to change this within your advanced settings. But besides all that software, we also have some big hardware news, since VRelity Labs showed off 2 insane headsets that could potentially turn into the follow-up of the Quest 3. Now the first one is also known under the codename of Tiramisu. But what is so special about it is that this is the first VR headset ever with above retinal resolution. And that means that the quality is so high on this headset that you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between real life and VR by just looking at it. Now the design itself does look kind of funny, with it nearly being triple the size of the original Quest 3. But it also needs to trade in some of its features to achieve such a crisp image. And that is mainly when it comes to its field of view. But that is absolutely not the case with the other headset they showed off, which is codenamed as Boba 3, because this one is specifically made with a big FOV in mind. So that means you'll be able to see a lot more in both VR and mixed reality compared to that of your original Quest 3. And the cool thing is that there's no trade-offs in form factor or resolution, so this could already give us some good indications of what a futuristic Quest 4 would look like. And while we know that the release of this one won't be for quite a while, it is definitely exciting to see that Meta's research team has already gotten so far that we will soon have to question between what is VR and what is not. But before we get to the big VR game news that you don't want to miss, let's first have a quick word from the company that made this video possible. Because if you ever feel like your screen in VR is not sharp or maybe even blurry, then it might be worth it to upgrade to some physical lens inserts instead, especially if you also normally wear glasses or contacts. And a great example of these are from the company named VR Wave, because not only do these instantly make your screen look a lot more sharp, they also have a blue light filter and glare reduction built into them, so that you can even benefit from it if you have perfect eyesight. And if you're interested, I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description below. But that gets us to the VR game news. And directly starting with probably the biggest one is none other than Deadpool VR. Because this is probably one of the most anticipated and popular VR games that we have got since quite some time. And in it, you'll be fighting your way through its entire story with some insane weapons and a bunch of funny one-liners. And it is exactly that combat that looks and feels so smooth that you just wish it was implemented like this in other VR games too. But next to the combat, I'm also a huge fan of the art style that is being used here, which is the typical cel-shaded graphics that fits so well for comic book adaptations like this. But moving on is another must-play VR game that is coming to the Quest 3, and that one is known as Arcane Age. And until now, this one was only available for PC VR and PlayStation VR too. Although, do keep in mind that the Quest port will of course have some downgraded graphics to these versions. But either way, right out of the gate, this is a single player VR adventure that you really can't miss out on, because in here, you'll be taking out some fearsome foes with completely customizable weapons, as well as an arsenal of unique and exotic tools. And while it might not look as crisp as the official PC VR version, it is still one of the better looking experiences that you can get on Quest. And next up, we have the VR MMORPG known as Elysia that is now gonna be completely free to play. And while this one has been out already for a bit, until now, you would actually have to pay to try out this experience. And don't worry, even the users that did buy the original will now in exchange receive a Founders Pack with some cool exclusive in-game items. However, this isn't the first time though that we see a big VR MMORPG going free to play. Because just like the popular Scene of the Last City, which got rebranded to Scene of Nexus later on, sadly had to add in this free-to-play version after they were going bankrupt. And that is not even saying that nearly every VR MMORPG out there has had to eventually close down their doors. But hopefully, we'll still get something like an actual Sword Art Online MMORPG eventually. Which gets us to another big name in the industry. And that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Empire City. And the developers behind this ambitious title have now released a first pre-alpha look regarding the gameplay and some other features. And in it, we can see the player who embodies one of the Ninja Turtles that is traversing its way across the city with some real parkouring skills. And just like with the previously mentioned Deadpool, it seems that this one is also using those nice cel-shaded graphics that just work so great for titles like this. Although, just keep in mind though, that this footage is still very early on in development, and that it might still be a while before we see its full release. Either way, the team behind it did share that in this experience, you'll be able to play as either of the 4 brother Ninja Turtles, and that you can play it in either solo or with 4-player co-op. So that is definitely a game that you might want to look forward to. And that same goes for the announcement of the survival game known as Tracked Shoot to Survive. And this one is made by the highly skilled team behind the Green Hell VR adaptation. But compared to this port, Tracked Shoot to Survive is an original VR game that is built from the ground up to work on the Quest 3. And in here, your survival will depend entirely on your own actions while you're making your way through the harsh Canadian tundra. And while their previous title was a lot more linear, this one seems to let you explore the world itself in a more of an open fashion so that you can really grasp that feeling of survival in the wild. Either way, you can expect a lot of exploration and different firearms that you can make use of, as well as having some more advanced VR interactions like climbing trees and mountains. But that's not all, because there are also some insane PC VR games that you have to play on your Meta Quest 3. So click on the video that you see on screen right now to make sure you don't miss out on that. And of course, stay awesome.